Welcome to my first ever YouTube human design reading. These sessions are specifically for people that have questions that they want to know the answers to without necessarily sitting in a one-to-one coaching session with me. So I'm really delighted to be bringing these sessions. These sessions will also live on my YouTube channel because I know that when I've learned from other people what it's like to be a 3-5 generator, which is what I am, it helps me understand myself even better when people ask questions that I never knew how to ask. So that's the invaluableness of having these sessions, and then they get to live on my YouTube channel for eternity. I have an incredible, beautiful client, Gabby, who has asked for a reading, and we are going to dive into her charts. So let's put that up there. And this is the question that she asked. I feel lost on how to start my business. How could I use this information to find direction? I recently became a mom and have really lost myself. How can I use this information to step into the new version of myself? I struggled with long COVID. I got Sacral for a year, which ended in Jan, some of which I was pregnant and am still suffering the aftermath. How can I help myself heal? Firstly, I'm sending you so much love because being a mom or becoming a mom, walking through that birth portal is one of the most soul-cracking open experiences that I believe a woman will ever go through. It shifts your identity at such a deep level. And as we know with manifestation, we don't just manifest from thoughts alone, we actually manifest from who we are being, which is our identity. And so when we go through such a soul-cracking open experience, our whole identity starts to shift, which means our external environment also starts to shift, and the way we look at things changes. And specifically in looking at your design, and we'll go into the details of this in a bit, but especially looking at your design, you are somebody that is here to be very aware of your own values. You are somebody that is here to be very aware of who you are at your core. And that's all shifted, which is why somebody that does have a defined identity center like you do is going to feel that a lot more because it's really just cracked open your soul. So let's look into a couple of different things here. Intuitively, I feel that at the moment, you're looking for more clarity. And this is where your human design strategy and authority, as well as your profile line, are really going to be the foundation of how you move through life. So let's start there. I know this can be basic, but the way I'm going to help illuminate this information is hopefully going to be different from what you've learned before. Being a pure generator means that you have to tap into your body either expanding or contracting when the universe provides breadcrumbs to you. Now, a lot of the time, people think that breadcrumbs are signs that you're on the right path. But breadcrumbs are often just information that we then get to use to tap into our body-based intelligence to see what is and what isn't for us. So let's just say, for example, one of your ideas for business is to become a photographer. And all of a sudden, you start seeing photography companies popping up everywhere because this is how our reticular activating system works. And you see an advert for photography gear. Then maybe you see a flyer on the wall for a photography class. All of these things are going to start coming up. This is a breadcrumb that then gets the generator to respond to that thing that's come up for them. So if, for example, you've got the photography class pop up on a Facebook ad, how does your body feel in that moment? Is it feeling like, ooh, that's really drawing me in, that's making me feel really expanded, that's making me feel really excited? Then it's helping you realize that maybe it is for you. However, if that information is coming up and you're like, oh, I'm feeling a little bit contracted, I'm feeling a bit heavy, I'm feeling more withdrawn within myself, that is the answer that no, it's not for you. And so when it comes to discovering what business idea, and I will give you some clues as to what you'd be really brilliant at, it really is about allowing yourself to be open to infinite possibilities and then using the breadcrumbs that the universe will give to you, because the moment you start thinking about different options, your reticular activating system is going to bring different things into your reality and your environment. And that's how you then respond. The next part is for you specifically having the 3-5 profile line is that you are going to have to take messy action. So there are going to be a lot of trial and error things, but that's how you learn. You have to take messy action. And as somebody who I also have a 3-5 profile line, we have to detach from one way being the only way. And this can be quite tricky in business because I know that there's a part of me that was like, just give me the recipe. I can follow the recipe if you tell me that I need to post X amount of times, do this kind of a course, do all of these things, but you will only gain the wisdom that's required for you to hold the big vision that you want with your business by taking that messy action. So as the generator with a 3-5 profile line, what I say is hold the vision for how you want to feel in business. So the reason why you want a business, there's a driving factor behind that. And my guess is probably around freedom to have your own schedule, your own time so that you can be a present mama and still have an income, chase after your dreams. And so hold that vision, but also know that there might be 15 million different pathways to attain that freedom. And maybe the first path is not going to be the thing that gets you there. Maybe it will be. I don't know if that is or isn't going to be true for you, but I don't want you to make any of those pathways mean anything about you. It just is all information that you then get to use and interpret it as, oh, that made me feel expanded, that made me feel contracted. And that's the most important thing for how you'll move through everything. But let's look at your definition, your circuitry, what you're here to do. I know that you're a 3-5 profile line, but you've got a lot of 6-line energy in your chart. You've also got a lot of individual circuitry, and you've got the channel of mutation. You've also got the defined head and ajna connection, which the top half of your chart is all very defined, and it's really beautiful because you have the voice to interpret your ideas, your thoughts, your beliefs, and who you are. But then that doesn't kind of link up to your emotions and your energy needs and your stress. So they can feel like sometimes there's that like disconnect, and that's because you've got the gap in your circuitry there, which is where you're here to gain wisdom. So when I say things like gap or higher or lower expression, it's never good or bad. It's just information that, again, we get to use. Being somebody with a right angle cross of laws 4, having so much individual circuitry, having a lot of 6-line energy, and having the definition that you do in the top of your chart, you are here to very much be a leader. You don't like being told what to do, which is also probably why entrepreneurship is a very good fit for you and why you're driven to doing that. And you're also here you're very much here. It's amplified in your chart in a few areas. You're very much here to bring big solutions to problems. And you're going to be very good at assessing problems that are coming up in the world. And something that you're really going to have to sit and contemplate is your relationship to authority, because you are here to question the values. It's the incarnation cross laws even has a little bit of semblance in what that even means, because you're here to question laws. You're here to change the laws. You're here to change those things. And there's going to be a bit of a push-pull energy inside of you because you felt very safe in rules and structures before, but now you're here to break them and change them. And you're also here to do it in a way where you are executing new ideas. You're at the forefront. And that can be a very overwhelming feeling because you're here to walk where no one's walked before. And again, that's where your connection to your sacral of, oh, does this feel expanding? Does this feel contracting? Is really going to help you in ascertaining what the business idea is that you're going to land on. Talking of business ideas, with your defined head, with your defined ajna, standing up, you are connected consistently to the neutrino stream. And so you will feel like you've got so many ideas constantly churning on inside your head, and it will feel like you've got 15 tabs open all at the same time. In order to close those tabs down, lie down. Lie down when you're meditating, lie down when you're visualizing, because your whole chart actually changes configuration when you lie down. And that will just help turn the neutrino stream off, and then you'll be able to sit with the ideas that are actually just meant for you, try them on and all of that. But what could be happening right now is that you might be logically trying to decision your way through things as opposed to feel about the things that you want to do. You've got touch as your cognition, which is also a key insight into what you're here to do in business. And essentially, you're here to question the values of things, and whatever it is that you're bringing forward into this world is to really touch people. And it could be that you want to work with your hands and actually physically touch people. So things like maybe massage therapy or physiotherapy or something like that is a really great way for touch cognition to execute their genius in the world. But it could also be through how can you touch the lives of others through words or thoughts or deeds, that kind of thing. So you really are here to touch the lives of others, to bring about change that's going to drive the collective forward. And I sometimes also feel like with the fifth line energy that you have in your culture sphere and your gene keys, with the work that you're here to do, it's also very much, we'll get into this, but basically in your unconscious side of your design, you are a projector and you deeply crave recognition. And some of the channels that you have are also projected channels. So when it comes to business, yes, always follow generator, your strategy and authority in that way first, but you also are going to have to start really deeply recognizing the things that you have. And when you get that invite, so to speak, which is the breadcrumbs that the universe is going to give you to respond to, but that's when you'll be able to talk about your ideas, to talk about the things that you see in this lifetime in your way. And that's when it will land correctly with the right people. Because if you had to talk about your views and even your opinions and your insights just freely and not have people really ready to receive that information, you're actually going to feel really bitter and even more like an outcast, which a lot of the time individual circuitry will feel like. And it's just really important that you wait for that right timing to bring about your ideas, to bring about your opinions. And you are designed to be somebody that does have strong beliefs, that does have strong opinions about the things that you're doing. That's what you're designed to do in this lifetime. But it can come across as very jarring if people haven't invited you to speak about those things. Yes, you're a generator through and through, but unconsciously you are a projector. And sometimes you might feel like you can actually resonate with the projector's strategy, which is to feel recognized. You've also got a line 2 in your pole sphere, which means that the work that you do, you want to be recognized for it. You want to be really revered and celebrated for the work that you're doing in this lifetime. And so that all starts with you, which brings me to my next point of conversation, which is, are you recognizing yourself right now in your new role as a mama? And I can speak a lot from experience here, that when you become a mom, there are parts of you that you didn't know exist that all of a sudden come out. And then there are also parts of you that need healing, because becoming a mom is also you reliving your entire childhood, right? And so I just invite you to not judge these parts of self, because often being a mom, we're giving so much to our babies that we sometimes struggle to just take a moment to reflect where certain things are coming from. And you've got an open solar plexus. I don't know what your baby has, but because you now have a little attachment that is always going to be with you, living fully in their human designness without being conditioned yet, whatever they have defined and you have undefined, you're going to be soaking in that energy too. So if your baby has a defined emotional center, all of a sudden your emotions are going to feel really out of control and really amplified, because you're going to be around that energy on a consistent basis. You also, of course, have the physiological aspects of postpartum happening with hormone drops and hormone changes and all of those things. So this is a time to really be so kind and have so much grace with yourself. Now, with your chart configuration, you've got the center that you have open is your heart center. And this is the center that we find a lot of people wanting to prove themselves, to prove their worth, to prove their enoughness. And so are there things that you're doing in parenting as well? And this is just a side note, but are there things that you're doing in parenting that may be coming from that place of, I need to prove myself here that I am a good mom, instead of just knowing that you are a good mom because you naturally are. When it comes to using this information to really help you come back to yourself, I always look at the identity center and see which gates you have defined there first, to work with those energies to help you move back into feeling a bit more confident within yourself. So the first thing I noticed in your identity center is that you've got 10, 1, and 25 defined. This means that you're going to have to understand what it is to love yourself. And I truly believe that this is also going to help with your healing. And as we know, self-love is not just about pouring yourself a bubble bath and going #self-love. That's self-care. And I know that you know this, but I'm also just going to reiterate this at the deepest level. Self-love in your case is going and looking at all the parts that you might feel ashamed, embarrassed, or guilty about. And I know that with becoming a mom, we often face a lot of mom guilt. And you've got one of the shadows naturally, which is in a really interesting position. So in your North Node, which is where you're going towards, you've got gate 55. And one of the shadows there, or even the challenge there, can be selfishness. It's a very individual, emotional gate. It's an energy that the whole collective is actually moving into. It's a beautiful gate. It's the spirit of abundance. And there might be elements of you that might be feeling guilty for craving that time to yourself and having that selfishness, and then maybe being told that, well, you can't be selfish right now because you have to give more of yourself to your baby. But you can't give more of yourself to your baby unless you're holding yourself first. And I truly believe that in a family dynamic, with bringing peace into the home, it is all about, how do we hold the mother? The baby will always be held, but how do we hold the mother? So when it comes to truly loving yourself again, look at the parts that you might be feeling guilty. That's where I would start first. What are the parts that you may be feeling guilty about right now? What are the parts that you might be feeling ashamed of right now? And deeply give those parts love. How can you see yourself in those moments and say, wow, I've been so critical of myself in this way because I wanted better standards? That's a gift. But can we do it with more grace? So an example of this, and I'm just going to pull things from my own self here, is that sometimes I feel guilty because I do find myself falling into comparison around what other moms are doing versus what I'm doing. And that is one of the shadows in my gene keys, actually. And so the moment I went back to the parts of myself where I had maybe been put up for comparison, or I had been comparing myself in my childhood, and I gave myself what I needed during those times, which was often just to be seen. And therefore, if I was truly seen, I wouldn't have to act out and try and make myself be seen by others. That's when the timelines kind of just collapse and give you exactly what you needed. And that's how you're really going to love yourself through that gate 10. Now, it's just some other areas that really jumped out to me when I was looking through a lot of the different things in your chart. Is one of the things I would really contemplate is gate 50, which is in your unconscious sun, which is all a part of your radiance sphere. And this is essentially where you will unlock the greatest healing. You've got corruption in the shadow here. And what this means is that you are somebody that is going to question hierarchy. And when you either feel like you want to take advantage of the system, or that the system takes advantage of you, there's going to be this anger that builds up. And when we think of skin, which is obviously the Eusokaria, skin is everything that is, it's showing a different story. And skin is then, if it's breaking out in Eusokaria, especially depending on where it is on your body, it's trying to push something out. And I wouldn't be surprised if there was a system, maybe during birth, that was showing you things that you didn't agree with. It went against your values, it went against your morals. So when it comes to getting back to yourself, which is going to be through your identity center in gate 10, it's really going to see this within you, what corruption really means to you. I would definitely go and read more into that gene key, but that's what I feel, is that there's parts of you that feel so angry with the system, and maybe that's something that's going to drive you to want to change it. Because when you are driven through corruption, you'll find equilibrium. And that equilibrium is going to help you find a different way to bring into the social context of your community, which I think is really powerful, especially just looking at all the other areas of your charts. To help you change your frequency, which is also going to be included into how you heal. Voice is the way you change your frequency. So for you, expressing, especially because you've got the defined throat center, you're able to talk about who you are and where you're going. You're able to talk about your ideas, your belief systems, data processing, things like that. You using your voice is really going to help change your frequency. So if you're having a bad day, for example, sing or shout or scream. And I know, because I'm also 3-5, this has been greatly helpful for me in becoming a mom, is that I have learned how to use my voice to let what is sitting in my body out. And it doesn't always need to be in like a public forum. Sometimes it's just about screaming into a pillow, but sometimes it's also about just changing your frequency through singing. And having children is such a wonderful thing, because you are going to find yourself singing a lot more. So that's a way of being able to express the anger that you may sense underlying out. And that's going to help you heal and really activate that gate 10. And then the next one we want to look at is gate 1. Gate 1 is all about self-expression. And self-expression is not just about talking. It's about, how are you dressing? How are you moving through life? What are your intentions? What are your thoughts? So really think about this. Now, this is where you need to also think about what becoming a mom actually means to you. When you became a mom, or even before becoming a mom, what did the word mom mean to you? I know that for me, it looked a lot like, oh, well, all moms know how to cook. And all of a sudden, I became a world star chef overnight, because that's how I had interpreted the word mom. So what does mom mean to you? Does mom mean, and the good and the bad, because I also know that moms were generally stressed out and rushing everywhere. And I know that I also can fall into that a lot, because it was wired into my identity. And so it's then about finding expanders that you do look up to, who are moms that are doing the things that you want, and showing your nervous system that it's okay to change the perception of what it means to be a mom inside your identity. And that's going to help you with the self-expression. And the more you can authentically express yourself, the more radiant you'll become. And also gate 1 is in your Pluto. And I found this really interesting, because Pluto's a slower moving planet. It's a bit murkier. It's a little bit more mysterious, but it's also the planet for transformation, for power and rebirth. So this is definitely an energy that's going to help you have this rebirth moment of rediscovering yourself. Gate 1 is also very interesting, because gate 1 has elements of it that can be very melancholic. It's a creative gate. And if we think about the artist in its truest form, we think of a person that has these creative outbursts, and then also periods of time where they're not creative. And when you're not in that creative moment, you might actually start to feel like you're in a depression cycle. And I wouldn't be surprised if that, because you're feeling really depleted after having a baby and having health issues and all of these different things, you don't have creative energy that you have access to right now. And creativity is very linked to your sacral. And what I'm sensing through everything with the shadow patterns is that because you're depleted, your sacral's depleted. Because your sacral's depleted, you can't be creative. Because you're creatively depleted, you're in this depression cycle. And now you're using your mind to override everything. And you're constantly just like short looping and short circuiting yourself with the mind, and having these consistent same thoughts. But doubt and mystery live in the mind, especially in your configuration. So it becomes this like vicious cycle. And this is why I think that the business ideas will come, being a mom will come when you work very specifically on gate 10 and gate 1 and gate 25. We'll get into gate 25, but gate 1, how can I authentically express myself? And start off small. Do I want to change my style because I've become a mom? I know that was something that I questioned a lot, and also have gate 1, so can definitely resonate there. Do you want to maybe change the way you do your makeup or have your home decorated? It's all about that self-expression. And for you, you've also got chores in your environment. So it's about the coming together of two worlds. And I think that it's also a really beautiful point in your life where you're considering a business and you become a mom. and you're in that transition, it's a coming together of two worlds. So what is this coming together of two worlds illuminating for you, and how do you want to move through it? And really just sit and journal out, like, what are the things that I believe moms are, and what are the things that I believe moms are not, and what do I want a mom to be that maybe I think they aren't. So I know that I wanted to be somebody that was super fashionable as a mom, and had to show myself that that was totally possible for me. And it's just amazing that when you do start to then find those expanders, more expanders start to come. So that's what I would do with gate 1. And that will help you get out of that cycle. And hopefully by starting to get more creative in your mind, you'll be able to fill up that sacral energy. When you're filling up that sacral energy, you'll be giving more to yourself. And that's how you'll start to feel more confident, to understand who you are again, and really step into the identity, the new identity of yourself. 25 is the gate of spirit. And I love this gate. It's one of my favorite gates. And it's all about your connection to God, source, the universe, or something higher than yourself. This is a very important part of your design because it's in your unconscious Mars. And this is where your greatest core wounding is, as well as what your biggest blessing will be. So gate 25, you really want to start to connect with something higher than yourself. And you will know if you're connecting when you can start to feel breath. And I know that that sounds a little bit crazy, but if you find that you're sitting and you're a little bit hunched over and you're finding yourself short of breath, you're closing off your heart space. And when you're connected with something higher than yourself, you're starting to feel that heart space expanding more because it's breathing life through you. Gate 25 has a lot of breath connected to it. Now, I don't know if you are breastfeeding or not, but also just another consideration, if you are, is definitely opening that chest up for that heart space to be open, because breastfeeding is very much from that heart chakra. Everything I'm talking to you about right now sits in the heart space, the heart chakra, the identity. And so it's all about like opening up this heart space. With your core wound being 25, it's if you're feeling constricted right now, and I just intuitively feel that this will be resonating with you, that you do feel that constriction with life right now. And that's why you might feel constricted in the ideas for business. Breath. How can you breathe and really breathe in that connection with source, God, spirit? That's really going to help you. And it doesn't need to be a long, lengthy process. And I know that being a mom, your time does become different. But how can you just connect in? Can you take a moment to stand outside and ground? Can you take a moment to journal? Can you take a moment to look at the stars and the moon and say a prayer or a mantra? That's really going to help you in just coming back to self in your identity of who you are. And the more you can do those things, which is empowerment by, self-love through really understanding your shadows. And the first shadow that I'd really invite you to consider is that shadow of corruption, understanding your relationship with hierarchy. Because also in business, a lot of interesting mindset things happen when it comes to starting a business. We see ourselves as a CEO. And if you have a anger towards people of hierarchy, you might have a connection where a CEO is a figure of hierarchy. And so it feels really unsafe to step into that version that is the CEO. And if that is the case, again, just contemplating that relationship with hierarchy and corruption, which is using a system in a way that actually will enhance the values for the community, is going to be where your gift and your genius really lies. And it's also going to help you in the healing space as well. So that's why I think gate 50 is going to be a really cool one for you to look at. And it's also in your unconscious sun. So very, very, very powerful gate to consider. Not only is gate 50 in your unconscious sun, but let's look at the positioning of gate 50. Gate 50 is in your spleen sensor, and the spleen is also where your health lives. So you have an undefined spleen sensor. In terms of health, it means that you've got a very, I don't like the word sensitive, but you do have, for lack of a better word, a sensitive immune system, meaning that homeopathy and natural remedies will work really well for you. And what's really interesting with an undefined spleen is that you can become a little bit of a medical empath. So if you start to see that other people have certain health conditions, that might be something that you then experience. And it's because you're taking in the immunity of other people's and you're amplifying that. So I would just really look into your hubby's chart as well and see, does he have a defined spleen? Because there could be a correlation there where he might actually be the one that has the underlying condition and then you amplify it. I'm not saying that that is the case, but it could be something that would be interesting to look into. And then also just with having that open spleen, well, the undefined spleen, is to really trust your intuition. It's also not about making spontaneous decisions though, because having the undefined spleen, you really want to trust in that sacral response, which is your body going, yes, I'm opening this up. I'm seeing it. It's come up into my reality 3 times. Okay, now I know to go versus, oh, I get excited about this. Let me go. And this is, I think, where a lot of people go wrong with the generator strategy is that they think, oh, the moment I'm excited, it means yes, it's that full body hell yes. But that full body hell yes builds up the more you see something, and then it's becoming discerning about the information that you have received at least 3 times and then going through it. You shouldn't be making spontaneous decisions, and that's also going to help you with the healing process with your charts. So just to recap, in terms of business, you are here to bring something into this world that is unique and where you get to be the forefront of change. And it's going to be something that isn't aligned with questioning the values to bring something new to a community that's going to solve a big problem. You're going to probably need big resources in order to fulfill out your mission when it comes to your business idea, because that is the problem solver energy. It's also in your culture sphere. So you are somebody with a big, bold mission and you are going to need to be resourced. So think of, even reaching out to venture capitalists, things like that, because you've got a really big mission underlying, and using your strategy and authority of just trying out all these different ideas, feeling what feels good. And when it does land and you know it is right for you, move, take the messy action, because it's through trial and error that you'll get the next steps available to you and know how to progress down the line with business. When it comes to being a mom and coming back to yourself, really ask yourself, how can I love myself truly and embrace the shadows that have made me feel guilt and shame and embarrassment? And that's going to help you turn on that gate 10 to truly love yourself, all parts of yourself, and also embrace the things that you love about yourself and be like, damn, I'm amazing at being this kind of mom and I'm really good at doing this. And that's going to help you come back home to self. But it's easier, especially when you are so raw and vulnerable in your early postpartum days, to look at the things that you don't love and ask yourself how you can love those things about you. Then with gate 1, it's to really ask yourself, how can I start to authentically express myself so I can tap back into my creativity, I can tap back into my sacral energy, and that's going to cause so many beautiful ripple effects in your life. And even ask your inner child, like, what creative projects can you take on that's going to help kickstart that creative surge again? I know for me, it's been through reading fantasy books that I've been able to kickstart back that imagination and get my creativity back. And in my early postpartum days, I was doing a lot of coloring in and dot art and things like that. So what is it that you can help yourself do to kick back that creative energy and then as well express yourself authentically in the world? And then how can you connect in with God, source, the universe every single day to get back that life force energy to help you open up, to expand your heart space and to breathe? I would even do breath work. And then part of your healing will be, how can you use your voice to change your frequency, to release that inner anger that I sense is bubbling below the surface. And this anger has probably resulted in a system of hierarchy not working out for you. And that has been brought to your attention so that you can change it. It's part of your bigger purpose. And it's probably going to feel a bit overwhelming because it's a big mission, but that's what you're designed here to do. And you've got a lot of leadership. You are the alpha wolf in your chart, even, because you're here to make sure that the pack moves forward and their survival is maintained. That is your design. You are that alpha wolf. And taking the pressure off of yourself to prove yourself, to just know that you are naturally worthy and good and amazing. And I know that that's easier said than done, but that journey is also going to help you come back into healing. I hope that this has been a really invaluable and insightful reading for you, and that you've taken something out of it that you can use. If you've loved listening to this reading too and would like one for yourself, drop down into the links below, book in your session. I cannot wait to read your charts, and I'll see you in the next episode.